Let's get to it. All right, so here's the Rhyme Masters model for hip hop lit analysis. And really what it means is just a way of like thinking about how to do literary analysis, but through, again, the lens of hip hop. And it's, in this case, there's basically metaphors. So I think of analysis as breaking things down to its elements, right? That, you know, when you put together, create something, you know, to create the whole, right? So when you create the whole, it's more synthesis, and then when you break it down, it's analysis. So there's essentially kind of three places that you can occupy when you're doing analysis. One, I believe, is the court. I believe this is where most people start. And this is where we're talking about like, yo, that was dope or that was whack, right? It's very subjective, it's very personal. And we're placing a value on essentially the language, right? We're placing a value on, you know, you hear a line, you decide whether you like it or not. You hear a line, you decide whether that rapper is good or not, right? That's the court. You're making a value judgment on them. And so when we often start in the court, and that's fine. You know, what we learn is that person's personal preference. We don't necessarily learn why they like it or why they don't, or why that person's whack to them or great to them. But it's a good, you know, if that's where you're at, that's a good place to start. You just have to know that there's other places to go. The next place to go is the library, right? So this is where we're in study mode. Right now we're thinking about what the words mean and how they're put together. And I would say this is subjective by group. And what I mean by that is like, words have multiple meanings, and it's the context where these words occur that give the words their meaning. And so the context is really just a situation, and every situation is influenced by culture. And so when I say subjective by group, it means that, you know, the very classic example of bad meaning good, right? In hip hop, if we're bad, that's good. The group collective of hip hop have decided that, you know, we flip things, right? So when we say we're bad, it's good. But in the, you know, traditional non-hip hop world, maybe even the school world, you know, bad is bad, right? And so it's the group that decides what certain things mean. Even though, I mean, it gets deep if I take it there, but let's just say that there's a theory out there that's like, there's no real objectivity, it's just collective subjectivity, but I'll leave it at that. So we won't dive too deep into that. But just know that when we're in the library, we're looking at meaning and the ideas of the words. And then the last place, not really the last place, but the place where we want to be, or at least we're going to be today, is the workshop, where we're looking at the craft of language. This is the most objective. I mean, you're still dealing with the fact that, like, you know, a culture has decided like this word means, you know, hand, this is hand, right? Like, we've all decided that this is hand, but if I spoke a different language, right, it would be a different word. But for the most part, it's objective to the extent that we have all agreed to certain things, meaning certain things. It really is objective in a sense that there's things that you can like point to or experience directly with the senses that you can play with. And so in the workshop, this is what we're talking about today. When we start looking at these verses and these lines, right, we're just looking at the craft of the language, the words themselves, you know, getting down to the syllables and noticing the patterns that they create, so that way we can then create those patterns and play with those elements to craft something different, right? And so we spend most of our time, I think especially as a rap writers, between the library and the workshop. It's like the workshop is where you do the work, you're putting in the time, and then the library is where you're studying up, right? And you're also, you know, interpreting your own work. But the courtroom, you know, what that is usually left out for the listener to determine whether it's good or not. So that's what we're getting into today. So we're getting into the workshop, and we're gonna do it with what I like to call write likes. So this one is How to Write Like Common, one of my favorite MCs. And like I said before, we're going to go with the people. And so we're actually going to do some drills. Let me I got to just switch my screens over. We're going to dive right into it. Let me see if everything is where it ought to be. Boom. How to write like common. So we're taking this, so again, from the second verse, there is this part, and I'll just kind of say it. I don't know. I might say it every beat. Why not? I'll try to say it to this beat because it's dope. So it's can't leave rap. Nope, I'm not going to say it to beat. I'm just going to say it a cappella. Can't leave rap alone. The streets need me. Hunger in their eyes is what seems to feed me. Inside peace mixed with beast seems to breed me. Nobody believed until I believed me. All right, this is the 4-bar section of his second verse that we're doing, and I think it's about midway through. So it's like when he says nobody believed me, I think it's like the halfway point of his verse, or it might be 3/4 if it's a 12-bar verse if he wrote that for that time. Excuse me. So let's say you just see this, right, and you're like, huh. All right, I like this line. I want to write something like it. The question where it starts is, what do we notice first? So I'm gonna ask this to you right now, and put it in the chat. So when you hear, and maybe try to think back to like when you first started like getting into, rap music. What did you notice first? In the lyric side of it. For me, beats caught my attention because I was a musical audio person, right? But after that, like when I really got into like listening to the lyrics, like what part of the lyrics would stand out to you the most? So I want to hear some answers on that, or see some answers. There's my audio processing then. Can't leave rap alone. The game needs me. Eminem. Are you saying Eminem said that too? Said it with the game? I wonder if this is like a sampled line then. If there's somebody even before Common that said this. But what do you notice first? What does people tend to notice, right? Rhyme pattern at the end, right? So generally we tend to notice the, and everything that rhymes, we tend to notice the end rhymes first. And so that is, I'm blocking it right now, so let me get rid of my capture for a second. Okay, so economy of words. Human being, do you mean like, I guess another word of it, brevity? It's like the shortness. Is that what you mean by that? Square dance. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. I wonder who said it first. Because rappers reference each other all the time, so there it is. Cool. So what we tend to notice first, right, is the end rhyme. And so I'm gonna get into the numbers on the top here, but the idea is, essentially the last words of each line rhyme. That is the end rhyme. So what I went ahead and did, right, is kind of just started to break this down, noticing end rhymes first. So basically, we got need me, we got feed me, breed me, and then believed me. And I capitalized, at least in this example here, where the word actually lands on beat number 4. All right, I'll talk more about the beat here in a couple slides, but the idea being, right, every beat plays, you know, for the most part has a count of 4. Obviously there are exceptions. Not every beat is made in 4/4 time, but the majority of what we rap to is. So this lands on the 4, and then so we notice that the last word of each line rhymes, and you know, if you have some degree of some musical background, you're like, oh yeah, this is the end rhyme that lands on beat number 4. If you don't have the background to know that it's beat number 4, because that is a thing for people, you could still make that observation of like, okay, every last word of each of these lines is rhyming. So we have end rhymes. It's like maybe the first thing that we notice. Let me actually spell rhymes correctly. And then we also know that it's, you know, essentially 2 syllables. I'm just gonna say, you know, double. So double end rhymes, meaning like it's need me, feed me, breed me, believed me. So then the next thing that we might pay attention to is the rhythm of it, right? And this is where we get into, you know, can't leave rap alone, the streets need me, dot, 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 dot. Now, maybe you don't, so we're trying to write like this verse, right? We're saying like, we like this verse and this is what we want to take and create something like this for ourselves. So the place that I always like to have people start is with the syllables, right? Again, if you don't have musical background to kind of like, you know eighth notes, quarter notes, and all that stuff, you can count syllables. So these are the parts of the words. And again, this is, you know, we start with the basics because you can point to this, right? This is things that we can observe. So we do, so can't leave rap alone, the streets need me. That is 9. And then it's hunger. So we got hunger in their eyes is what seems to feed me. And I believe that was 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep. All right. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got 10 here. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right. So your first line essentially is 9 syllables, and then your next one is 11. Then we have 10, and then we have 11. So here's where level 1. Here's basic. This is like the basic level 1 of the Write Like challenge is this. So now you get to a point where all you need to do, what you need to replicate is the syllable counts and the end rhymes. All right. So I'm going to give you like 5 minutes. You can do it in the chat, or you can do it on a piece of paper, or, you know, put it in the comments later if you're watching this later. But use the syllable counts for each. So it's 9, 11, 10, 11. And then the double end rhymes of, it could be need me, feed me, breed me, or believed me, to create a verse, you know, again, a short verse that is like comments. All right. So that's the Write Like challenge. And this is just level 1. So this is where, you know, in my head sometimes when I'm seeing like folks coming in and dropping out, and it's like, you know, they might be dropping out thinking like, oh, this is basic stuff. And it's like, yeah, it is basic stuff. But again, you know, we start with the simple, and then once we go a little deeper into what he's doing in the verse, you'll see that like there's actually more to it, and it's more challenging. So this is level 1 to start with. So I'm gonna leave, let me see. So I'm gonna set the timer. I'm gonna leave this on the screen for you so you have it. And let's see if you can, you know, what you can come up with. And I have some examples that I created earlier, but I want to give you time to do that now. And if you have questions or anything, you can put them in the chat and I'll address them as we go through. Let me see if I can remove myself to not blocking the last words. Yeah, I'll switch, move me over here right now. There you go. Couple options with this too. As long as you can keep the same rhyming sounds. If you want to do this, you can also change the rhyming sounds as long as you keep the same relationship between them. Right? So if you look at the type of double N rhymes you're dealing with right there, it's the same sound. It's both the long EE sound. So you could do, you or I or All right, so you can flip it up like that. So just over about 3.5 minutes remaining. I'm gonna give you some time. And all you gotta do is write 4 bars, right? Just 4 bars. 9 syllables for your first one, 11 for the second, 10 for the third, and 11 for the fourth, using the double N rhymes. And I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. I just had this thought, would it be helpful to see the lyrics? This business man, all right. Yeah, Iris, I'll take a listen to that and check it out. I almost felt like I feel like Jay-Z might have said something like that too. We got about 1.5 minutes. Get finished a little early. Let's see them in the chat. I'm curious to see what folks come up with. And if you're watching this later, you can always throw it in the comments. And I'll work on maybe making like a condensed version of it. It's hard, yeah. It's challenging for sure. And this is where, like, again, none of this stuff is necessary for a rap career, but it's definitely necessary for mastery of this craft for sure. Because what happens, what happens is, like we old heads say this all the time about, like, we didn't have the internet to learn from, so you had to figure it out. You had to figure it out on your own, right? So let's see. So I use marks to count syllables and have to remove words. Yeah, you start again. So like this idea of if you could just say anything you want, and for as long as you want, then there's no fun in that. But when you add these constraints that produce these effects, that's called a rap. Like that's the fun of it, and you start to again just get a deeper understanding of it. So I went ahead and kind of created 3 different examples of how like you could approach this. So like basically here's kind of like, all right, base level example of where like you so I'm gonna kind of move this one over here. So it says, I am here right now because you need me. The good food on my plate is what will feed me inside. Love mixed with hate seems to breed me. Somebody believed, so I must believe me. So all I really did here was just like, I call this like the how you hear a song on the radio and then you start changing some of the lyrics around. Like that's pretty much what this approach is, right? I didn't really change the end rhymes. I kept them the same so that I can just focus on the other parts, right? And I think that might be like the first level into it, first entry. You keep your end rhymes the same, but you change all the other syllables. And that's one approach. That is what you got here. So walking through the light, the race, see me, the days go by so fast. It's uneasy, it's done. Hold on, sorry. I moved my mouse and it disappeared. The time is on the dot and clicks quickly. Get up and be ready to rock and roll freely. Rock and flow. I said roll for some reason. Rock and flow freely. Yes. Thank you, Alice. That's dope. And so I think, so in that example too, I like how you found like your use of uneasy. So basically, your slant rhyme use is great in that, right? Quickly, I think. What's the point in counting syllables? The point in counting syllables is making sure that you maintain the same rhythm structure when you're doing this right like approach. Like that's the main of it. Now, if you're not doing the right like approach just in general, counting syllables, well, actually you'll see it in this. Watch level 2. We're gonna get to level 2 here in a little bit. Let me go through these other examples. So if you can hang with me for a little bit, I'll show you the point of counting syllables, because that's where it gets interesting, especially when you start doing, just see what level 2 has, man. Level 2 is coming up real quick. So here's the slant rhyme example that I pulled together. Your skills are too cold, they are freezing. Everyone loves your cadence, it is pleasing. You plan your rhymes to land, but no scheming. Everybody believes you, no deceiving. Right? And then my third one is where I keep the same, the same structure of the syllable counts and the double end rhymes, but then I'm changing the rhyming sound. All right. So don't worry about me, just do you. Hold it down, hold that line, don't let them move you. They front for the pack, you are the true you, so they will copy exactly what you do. All right. So there's an example of that one where like you can kind of notice that like in the first 2. Obviously, with the first one, because I'm using the exact same rhyme words, it almost feels like that common verse that we're sampling. And the second one, you kind of get that same thing too. But in the third one, I would doubt anybody would even think about that common verse without like this context of how we're learning how to do this, right? So that's how you can, like, again, there's music theory that allows you to like cover a song in a new way, like change the keys, transpose it, and make it yours, and still have like the those hidden elements of like a song that you love. And this is like essentially rap theory, where you can go and find out the elements of a rap that you love, sample that to make it, your own, but still have those hidden elements that's like, oh man, that has that vibe of so-and-so. Matter of fact, like, Avis, you previewed a joint last night that was like, it's like, oh yeah, that sounded like DMX, right? Even though you were not talking about anything DMX was talking about, it was just once you start listening for those hidden elements, you know what to listen for, to know like, oh man, that's got this kind of flow behind it. All right, we're getting into level 2. So here's level 2. So I kind of thought of it like this, where looking at the same 4 bars, I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to do an analysis thinking about which words land like on the beats of the bar. So, if you're counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, can't, rap, lone, need me, hunger, eyes, what, feed me, and so on and so forth, right? So essentially, the words I'm putting here, these are the words that land on the strongest part of the beat, because essentially when we're nodding our heads or swaying back and forth, doing a 2-step or whatever, we are that is the pulse of the song. That's like the main thread through it. And so essentially that's where our ears are naturally going to kind of gravitate towards as listeners, as far as like, when anything happens on one of those beats, it's like, oh, that feels stronger than happening in between the beats. All right. And so in doing that, right, you can start to notice something with the rhymes. Like, so now we start getting into internal rhymes, right? So can't and rap rhyme on the first and second beat. Alone doesn't really have a rhyme in there. And I mean, there's some, like, again, it gets intricate. I can keep going in and like pulling out even the smallest little rhymes, but I'm just gonna kind of, go to kind of the major internal rhymes here. So we have can't, rap. Obviously we have our in rhyme still in place. Hunger in their eyes is what seems to feed me, and then eyes with inside. So we have the rhyming between eyes and inside. And then in the third line, we have peace, beast, breed me. Like, that's all rhyming in the sound. And then we have nobody believed until I believe me. And then the I rhymes with inside and eyes, right? And so when you hear this, Common say it, and it has this like, this kind of song quality to it without necessarily him having like a melody to his voice, you think, how does that happen? Well, it's, if you notice, like, of all these places where the ear is kind of picking up because it's where the beat lands, he's rhyming, so he's creating resonances, creating patterns, and our brains are determined to figure out patterns from the noise. So when we create patterns, that's how we tend to get people's attention, because they're seeking that's how they're navigating their world, right? So that's how they're doing it for music. So, but it gets even crazier than that, because now I'm looking at stuff on the, on the beat, right? Can and rap and eyes inside and all that. But if you actually go back to the 4 bars, can't leave. So we have the rhyme with, and I'm not going to use super color-coded stuff. Well, okay, you know what? I'll lie. I think I can do it. All right, so focusing on, all right, did we get the right color? Come on, give me the right color. All right, now we're in the yellow, and eventually it'll catch up. Okay, so we have need me. So everything that rhymes, so essentially the in rhymes here. Need me, hunger in the eyes of what seems to feed me, right inside, peace mixed with beast, seems to breed me, and then the D, believed, and believed me. And then let me switch it up to, let's go with green, just to highlight this. So hunger in their eyes, inside, until I, and then I don't know if we'll use blue for this. And then here's another one that, like, again, it's in between, but you may not catch it, but the mixed with, that's another internal rhyme, right? And I missed one too, streets. See what we're doing here. Sorry, that's the wrong color. But my computer's kind of lagging a little bit. Okay. Did you do it? Did you do it? So, now again, I didn't get them all in there, but the point being is like this is not trap in a sense of like he's saying a lot of syllables, but yet in the short, brevity of his verse, right, he's doing all this layered internal rhyming that gives it that makes it stand out, that gives it some that just has a nice flow to it, that makes all the things that we enjoy about rappers. Like you take, and again, Eminem's always the common example of just like taking this internal rhyming to this crazy degree where it's like you're trying to rhyme everything, and that's when everything starts sounding sing-songy. So Common's even doing this, but he's doing it in a way that it's like your ear catches it, but if you don't know to listen to it, it's like you just enjoy it, right? And so as writers, we want to be able to have that effect. We don't want to necessarily, be able to rhyme in ways that are completely obvious to everybody, because then if it's obvious, it's predictable, and when it's predictable, people then will ignore it, right? So it has to just be subtle enough to be interesting without being over the top. So now we've just kind of pulled out two things, right? We've pulled out like all the internal rhymes and the end rhymes and the syllable counts. So essentially level 2, right, is then writing with the internal rhymes as well as the end rhymes and the syllable counts to write a verse. All right, so if you can, I believe you can, all right? I gotta believe you. Good teachers believe in, folks that they're coaching and working. So now it's, and I think I didn't put it in the directions, but really like the whole level 2 of this is like, okay, using the internal rhymes as well as landing on the same beats, right? The same points of emphasis. Try to write a verse like this, all right? Now what you may do is you may take something you've already written, like let's say you just did this and you got your 4 bars. You may go back and revise to try to like get the internal rhymes in there. And that might be an approach to take for it as well. So let me see. So where we're at right now, do folks want to try the level 2? I think we should try it. I'm gonna give you some time to try it. Let's do 5 minutes on it. Try the level 2. All right, so use the internal rhymes and the end rhymes and the syllable counts to write a verse like Commons. And then I have an example I'll share in a little bit, and I'll talk about the process. And this will get into the syllable count kind of discussion. Yeah. The game, okay. Yeah, because I when I remember hearing it, like when I hear it in my head, I know Common has that line, but I always hear Jay. It sounds like something Jay would say. And I think the shift is Common saying the streets versus the game, which yeah, this stuff's fun. I'm enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying the challenge of it. And then maybe I'll leave it there. I think in the future I'll still try to keep the verse, but I was trying not to have too many words on the screen. So just under 3 minutes on this. So the right like level 2 is using the eternal rhymes, the end rhymes, and the syllable counts to write a verse like Common. And the sample on the song by Prince EA. Call it the game. And I appreciate y'all for being here. I really do. And even if you're just kind of watching and checking out, maybe just in the chat, let us know where you're from, where you're watching from. Have we gone international yet? I am in Portland, Oregon, if you didn't know. Kind of found this one right here. Yes. Power's infinite. Watching from Poland. Hey, international. Right on. Represent where you're from. And yes, definitely check out Brother Avis and his channel. Yeah, we haven't even man, I was just thinking about like there's so much just in this, and this is simple, man. Like once we get into you were in my class. I got a former student here. Nice. All right, thank you. Appreciate you, human being. We'll be back in a couple weeks. I got some things go. Yeah, I know how it is, man. It's all good. This is pretty much, if you heard the whole credit recovery option, this is pretty much it. We're going to just be doing rap writing and as a lens through analysis, all the things. So I'm going to start building up the class in Canvas. All right. So, but if you're just taking it out, checking it out to check it out, you know, check it out to check it out. But if you want to recover that credit or raise the grade, that's my other experiment with this, y'all, for those who are now watching. So I literally teach hip hop lit, in a public high school in Portland, Oregon. And we're in the second semester. Man, trying to go as a musician, no school. I feel that. Let me finish the one point. So I was literally thinking like, okay, thinking outside the box. How can I continue to grow this? Because I love teaching this stuff, even though I can't teach it for the second semester because all my seniors were taught first semester. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to just teach it online on Saturdays, and then for those who have missed, you can take a Saturday class, and then we'll play the systems game and give you some credit for that. But then all in all, I teach for life. I don't teach for credits. I don't teach for for grades. I teach to improve people's lives, through the work that we do. So, yep. Past rewards, most definitely. The reward is bond. Stays deeply. Nice. that pass rewards most definitely. Words the bond and stays deeply. Nice. Yeah. I feel that power is infinite. Oh, and here's the other thing I wanted to say to you. Powers is, I was just talking to my son who's like in the back helping me out with this. Like, there's a lot of folks who are like, making their own way, in their passions, musicians or whatever it is, through actually the skills of school. And what I mean by that is like, all this stuff I'm teaching right now, right? Like, is stuff that I've learned, researched on my own, and then I'm presenting to you here that, truth be told, I can like package it up and do online teaching, right? And maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll have some offers in the future on it. But it's just like, the skills are important. The school is just a ways to a means. So however you get the skills, that's what matters the most. That's all I'm saying there. And I appreciate your effort, man, Avis. That was cool. So here's my level 2 example. And it took me a minute. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be like, oh, I just, did this in 5 minutes. I would say take some more time with it for sure, especially for things that stuff that you really like. So I said, puffing up for them, you just do you. Pushing for your spot, so don't let them move you. They plot coup, spin and bruise, cast and woo-woo. They salute loose goose and they mock to true dudes. So that is what I came up with. And if you noticed, I basically took the third example from the level 1, and I just, revised that to make it fit. And here's where the syllable counts came in, because there are some phrases, like there's this line. Let me see if I can hop back to it real quick. There was this line. Let me get back to it. It's moving slowly, but okay. So the second line here, where I said like hold it down, hold the line. So the syllable counts were actually, yeah, man. Thank you for stopping through. I appreciate you, man, for real. And y'all check out Avis Speaks, his channel. Subscribe. A lot of wisdom there as well. And don't get them started on acronyms. You'll have a fun time with them with that. All right, so in the second line, hold it down, hold the line, don't let them move you. Peace out, man. The way it lands, like just because it fits the syllable counts, how it lands still changes up the flow. And so what I had to do was actually go back to the verse and like do syllable counts like kind of divide this in half, like the first 2 beats and then this beats 3 and 4, and figure out like how many syllables we're actually creating these phrases. So nobody believed, that's 5 syllables right there, right? And then until I believed me, that's for the last 6. So I had to literally get to a point where, all right, I got to create this phrase that actually is more subdivided than just like the syllable count for the whole line. So that might be a little bit in the weeds, meaning like a lot of details that might just kind of go over your head. But as you start doing this more and counting syllables and like really noticing how when you listen to something, you like it, you replay the line to yourself in your head, and then you're like, okay, how many syllables are in that line? And then if there's a part of the flow or the cadence of the rapper that you're like, I like that part, how many syllables make up that part? And then when you go to write like that, then you know that you can create that flow, create that cadence, right? And this is what Avis was talking about earlier in the chat about like being able to get to different flows and different rhythms and different cadences by just understanding how many syllables are there, are part of it, and then connecting it to raps and cadences that you already heard, right? And so you do all this without having to have knowledge of rhythm notation, like eighth notes, quarter notes, triplets, and all that stuff. You can learn that stuff, and then that also gives you more possibilities to create with. But you don't need to, music is experienced, through the ears first. It wasn't experienced through notation first. So I know we like to think of the written word as being like the most powerful thing, but the most natural thing is the sonic, the sound, right? You learn how to speak before you learn how to write. So learning how to do analysis through what you hear can also help you learn this craft in a way, and then improve your writing with it. So, okay, man, I think we did it. And the thing about this is, I want to get back to the presentation part here. Come on. My computer is acting up on me a little bit. So we'll get to the reflection joint now. Let's see what we got. Okay. So we're gonna wrap up here with this. In the chat, if you can, what did you notice about rap writing? Your rap writing process with the Write Like challenge. Like, what did you notice? What came up for you? What I'll share for myself is that, in doing this, right, I noticed I was adding another challenge to it that wasn't necessarily part of it, which was the challenge of like having it make sense and be coherent, right? I could have done an example where like literally, if it was like more of a freestyle on it, then like all I was trying to do is just match syllables and the rhymes, and that's it. And so each line could be about 4 different subjects, right? But because I was also trying to make sense and communicate an idea, then that's also added another bit of challenge in there that wasn't necessarily part of the Write Like for me. So, and essentially, like, today we just really focused on just like the workshop, looking at, rhymes and rhythm, right? And then there's still this whole other thing, right, of just the ideas and the relationships of the ideas that, we could even go through the verse and be like, all right, so, noticing the relationships between certain words and phrases, and then replicate those relationships. And so I think that is like the, in the next class, which is going to be 2 weeks from now, like right now, the plan is to do basically part 2, where we actually start getting into we go to the library a little bit, right? And we start looking at word relationships, meanings, context, content, and seeing how they play a part in the verses as well. So that's like a whole other, world to this that offers so much more possibilities. Thus, the art of complexity in what we do. So, but yeah. So what came up for you? What did you notice about your rap writing process in the Write Like challenge? Anybody got some thoughts on that?